What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
All right, Brandon, another week. Another week in Corpus. I'm miserable today. I'm tired. I'm ready to go back home. But, there were some positives. We lost to Chicago. I think I compared them to the San Jose of the East. You said that the game was going to be tougher, so you hit the nail on the head there. But we saw our guy Aleu can shoot. There's more to him than miss and give me. So, what are your biggest takeaways from our match against Chicago?
You want me to ball it like I see it? All right, Jamal, I'm going to ball it like I see it. What I see is a team that got burned by playing with fire. I see a team that got owned by a white shack. In the 8th minute, Escobar just wanted to show some love to his fellow competitor. Since when did giving a hug to another man turn into a PK? The R in referee stands for repressed. Shaqiri shows why he's former Liverpool by crushing the penalty with ease past Clark. Steve, sadly to say, he's kind of sewage between the pipes on penalties. I guess you could say, I smell a rat tail. In the 21st minute and 38th minute, Bossy had prime opportunities to equalize and show why he's the Moroccan magician, but he couldn't convert. His time in purgatory green card exile in the preseason, it seems to have taken some of his magic. Maybe he needs to go on loan to Hogwarts. Jamal, we've seen Escobar utilize his elite talent with his head, but we've never seen him use his head on the soccer ball before. It's pretty amazing, right? He needs to keep it up. Then, in the 64th minute, what the hell were the Fire doing? Easy takeaway by Aleu in front of their box, and then he puts a rocket in the top corner. Guess that explains why his first name is Ibrahim. Jamal, just when we think the Dynamo could escape Chicago with a point, Shaqiri plays a ball to Gutierrez that was only something a former Liverpool player could do. Ramirez then goes on to put his best Wizard of Oz impression by scoring an over-the-rainbow goal. Steve, what the hell were you doing so far away from the net? That's your home. Next time, click those ruby slippers and remember, there's no place like home. We start a heavy attack from the 80th minute on, and just when we win a corner in the dying seconds, the ref blows the whistle. Thanks for letting the drama unfold, ref. Dynamo lose 2-1 and fail to secure any points. Now it's on to the Twin Cities to play a strong Minnesota United squad. Jamal, you know what the U in United stands for? Uh-oh. And Jamal, that's how I ball it like I see it.
It took us to Chicago, to Hogwarts, and back. Oh, man, that was all over the place. Talk about a roller coaster. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It felt like a love letter to Liverpool, and I'm totally okay with that. But, you hit on a lot of spots. My two biggest issues, or not big really issues, but my two big talking points was the Escobar foul. And it's not just us. I know a lot of the other podcasts, we all talk about his passion, his tenacity, but at what point does it become a liability? I think we're getting there because, the guy just can never hold it back. Like, the game had just started and he already got the yellow card. And you talked about using his head. He doesn't seem to use his head in the right way a lot of times. And I'm just worried that when the stakes are higher as the season progresses, at what point does that become a liability? That was my takeaway, my first takeaway. And my second one is Aleu finding his feet. Is he just much more comfortable not being the main man up top? Sebas didn't play, but I think he knows that once Sebas is in, everyone's focused on Sebas this season. No one's really focused on Aleu. We're not really worried about what Aleu does as far as scoring. We like him as a secondary piece, but I feel like the taking the emphasis off of him and taking the load off him, we're starting to see him shine a little bit. That shot was a rocket, and I didn't know he had it in him. So those were my two biggest takeaways. I think you had a lot of points there, and I love Shaqiri, so I love the little love letter to Shaqiri.
Well, what's amazing is I don't think he's ever missed a penalty kick before in his career. So it shows that, like, why he was so cream of the crop every time he steps up there. Now, a couple of things. Yeah, Ibrahim, he really is him. He is scoring a lot of goals. He looks excellent on the wing. He does look reborn. Part of that we have to kind of contemplate here is he getting all these goals because who else is going to score them, right? besides him, it's been like Gabe and just a lot of hodgepodge goals. So it could be in the fact that we're just so depleted with injuries. Who else is going to kind of pick them up? Kind of like in an NBA team, somebody's got to score 50 a night, right? In this case, it seems to be Ibrahim. I'm okay with it. I still love it. I think a young kid like that, as he builds confidence, grows more into the role, yeah, we're going to see a lot of promise from him. Escobar, I'm right there with you, man. As great as his passion is, he probably was the player of the game for that match. But the fact that he just bear hugged a guy in the box, I know a lot of people on Twitter were saying that was not a foul. It was definitely foul. Like, you just cannot do that. And so, I mean, right on the ref to give the penalty. I don't know what he was doing there. Big question mark. Yeah.
I think it was WrestleMania weekend, and he was just, he was
trying to
all
put his
over
name in the hat.
Exactly.
Well, dude, and then the other thing that we need to start wrestling with here, Steve Clark. He made some great saves, but he's also cost us a lot. If you look at it, we're not picking up those clean sheets. Again, you could probably tack it on to injuries, and we can use that as an excuse. But he's had some plays here where he is so far off the line that I genuinely don't know how to like defend it. And so it's been a bit frustrating. We need Mikhail back. Even though Bartlow looked great back there, he had an incredible play to end it at halftime. But for the most part, you're right. Going forward here, hopefully we start to get healthy as we progress. But the fact that we travel to United next, that's going to be a tough one as well.
Yeah, leaving away with a point in Chicago would have felt like a win, especially going into United next. I'm nervous about this game. It seems like United. I'm sorry, I got them mixed up. Or no, is United having some issues with Reynoso?
Yeah, he's AWOL again.
Yeah, so I mean maybe that will kind of get them off of their groove. Uh, but it's a long trip for us. One away. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if we miss out on 3 points there. Yeah, I mean, look, Ibrahim, I like what I see. It's one thing to score gimme goals, tap ins. He's making shots, like he's
Yeah,
creating himself, and so one thing about I can't say I run the account because I think we're pretty 50-50 on our Twitter and our socials. But one thing whenever I'm in the Twitter, on the way we ball Twitter, is like picking my battles because there's times where I want to call people out or just have some kind of engagement. I bring that up because Tom Bogert had a tweet saying how much of a success or how much of a key piece Aleu has been. And I wanted to, I don't want to say clap back, but I wanted to correct him and be like, he wasn't that big of a key piece last year. Like we were already complaining, that was this a whiff? Was this a whiff of a signing? He doesn't really score as much as we'd like. So I want to say the Ibrahim that we're seeing right now, that's the Ibrahim we were hoping to see last year. I don't think you could say this has been a home run signing from the get-go. I think he's grown, and that's what you want to see with these younger
exactly.
guys. You want to see growth. And yeah, I mean, had it not been for that yellow card, I think Escobar would have been player of the match. But for me, it had to go to Aleu.
I mean, that's a good shout too. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there where you mentioned the key thing is growth. From a 22-year-old, that's exactly what you want to see is year over year that he's getting better and he is displaying that fully. And the fact that where would we be if it wasn't for his input right now? You know what I mean? We would definitely be at the bottom of the tables. So hopefully he continues to do that. I hope he continues to grow. So sad we didn't come away with a point. But, like we mentioned, it's on to United. I kind of want to move on and start to talk a little bit about some news that came out just recently. They had a big meeting in MLS where they kind of got together. We thought some big news was going to come out with some new transfer information. So the way it breaks down here, I have it in front of me. So there's a couple of options that you can do now with the new rules. The options of 3 DPs and 3 U22s or 2 DPs, 4 U22s, and 2 million GAM. So those are the two options you have right now so that's one of those. And then the other thing is there's 2 buyouts per season and max 3 million in GAM on transfer revenue per year. I don't know what any of that means. I get the 2 buyouts. I don't know what the GAM. But for the two options here, 3 DPs or 3 U22s or 2 DPs, 4 U22s, and 2 million GAM. Which one do you think is going to probably build the most success here?
I think overall the first option, but I think in our situation and what Pat likes to do, I think the second option. Um, based on what we've heard from Pat's interviews and discussions, especially with Glenn Davis, I'm kicking myself because I missed the 6 o'clock Glenn Davis episode, and he had Pat Onstad on today, and Spotify didn't update the episode, so I haven't been able to listen to it before jumping onto this. But I wanted to listen for this question specifically, and I missed it. But I think just to dumb it down, from what we've heard in the past, I think option number two for our specific case is going to be more beneficial. But I mean, it's a tough question to answer. What are your thoughts?
I think for the MLS, you kind of want to try to go for option two because it leaves you to have a deeper team. Now, option one, yes, if you have three absolute killers for DPs, yeah, you're going to be ahead of the game here. I mean, but overall, I like the idea of option two for how many more games we keep tacking on in terms if we're just chasing an MLS Cup, then yeah, go option one. Give me the three DPs, three U22s. But if we're chasing MLS Cup, US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Cup, then no, give me option two because that's going to allow us to have legitimate substitutions going forward. I think our team, as you keep mentioning, is more built for this kind of financial structure. And that's how we're going to keep this squad going forward, or at least keep adding two similar pieces going forward to kind of keep the success going. So I think that's pretty big. It wasn't the news that we wanted or the news that I think we needed, especially as we head to the World Cup. But at least it's something, and I'll take something over nothing.
I also don't think the news that we're hoping for is going to come during season. I think the big whale of a change is going to happen during the off season. Um, I'm a little jaded because I figured the off season after Messi's arrival was going to be the off season that happens, and it didn't happen. So I'm a bit pessimistic on the idea of that happening because I felt like we missed our mark on making a change like that. But we'll see. Maybe it's something that, what is it? Rome wasn't built in a day kind of thing. So maybe it just takes a while for these massive changes. But yeah, I mean, you definitely something has to be done. We're in that. I think we're in the phase right now where people say we're in MLS 3 or 3.0. I think we're in the phase where it's going to turn to MLS 4.0. I think it's a new generation or new era of MLS, and I hope this offseason is going to be that offseason where these changes come
I'm
to
with you
fruition.
I'm with you on that. But now that we at least know what the structure financial setup is now, the window closes April 23rd. We have 13 days to make a move if we wanted to. Do you think this is the team, or do you think we're going to try to add? I don't think we're going to hit a whale here, but do you think we can add something that at least is legitimate?
I mean, the rumor is out there on that midfielder from Latin America.
Yeah, Jefferson Valverde.
Yeah, Jefferson Valverde. I think that's going to be the type of signing we get. I don't think it's going to be a haymaker, so to speak. I think we pretty much have our team. I think Pat and Ben just want to add little pieces here and there, more as like insurance policies. So a number six, a backup to our tour. Do we need that? I don't think so. But at the same time, like all we have is our tour. I wouldn't be surprised. I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. Exxon, from what I've seen / heard about Dynados, I think we see him get some significant playing time here in the near future. But I think for the most part, the Dynamo you see now is what we're going to roll with maybe one or two key, additional small pieces.
So kind of tying in Valverde here, you hit a key point for me. Do we need it? And no, not really. And I really don't understand why we're getting it, because does this mean we're writing Brooklyn Reigns completely off? Because between him, Jans, Artur, and Ache, and now even bringing in Coco there, I don't really get it. And plus, finding information on Valverde was pretty tough. I know he's from Ecuador. He's 24 years old, so he's nice and young. And like you said, he can help Artur, and I think Artur needs it. I think his legs are really tired, and that's why we're not seeing the same sharpness from him. But it's interesting to me because I would have rather seen us add more pieces that can add goals and taking a bigger risk on that than something that I don't really get, especially where we can utilize Bossy, Kowalczyk, Brad Smith, etc. to kind of fill out those pushing forward and then drop Coco into his natural position. And you could sub off Artur and you could have Artur and Ache back there some games. Like, you can make us a little bit more deeper. So I hope Valverde is good. Obviously, I want him to pan out. I just don't really get that move, and I hope it's something better going forward. But I'm with you. I'm not optimistic for it.
So I mentioned that I'm a little upset because I wasn't able to catch the interview today. I did stumble across a tweet. I want to say it was Bayou City. Um, they recapped the interview, or they hit on key pieces. One key piece was that I'm assuming Pat mentioned that they're still shopping Coco.
Mm.
Maybe that's why. So me, I'm thinking still shopping Coco. One, Hector, we don't know what he's going to look like if he does indeed come back April 20th. Maybe we need more help in that midfield than us as fans know. I mean, the soccer in general, they're pretty secretive on injury reports and stuff like that. So my only takeaway was maybe things are a little more gloomy than we'd like to hope as far as health wise, or maybe they are getting interest. I know they did hit on Ibrahim also getting some interest. They didn't necessarily specify from where or if negotiations were actually ongoing, but they did mention that there was interest or negotiations going on for those two guys.
That's a good shout. I like that take and perspective of maybe the midfield, especially the defensive midfield, is in a deeper cry than we realize. I haven't really kind of seen the writing on the wall for that, but you're right. I think a lot of us and are putting in stock that Ache is going to return and be the MVP Ache we expect, right? But might not be the case. The guy's getting longer in the tooth. I still think he's going to be serviceable and great, but you're right. That is something that I think we should plan on the future. And I said Valverde is 24 years old. At first, I didn't really get it, but I like that. I've already spun around in the moments that we sat here and talked about that. Kind of a thing I want to throw at you here. And this one's a little bit more of a hot take thing, but it is bothering me. Dorsey, has he taken a step back?
No, he took a leap back. Look, I don't see the same Dorsey. I haven't seen it since beginning of the season. Honestly, I'd love to see Tarbell left back and Escobar right back, just from what we've seen so far. I don't know what happened to Dorsey. Maybe he was. I mean, I don't want to guess, but that's not the Dorsey we saw last year. That's not. What is it like? There was like that whole Madden curse, right? Like
Yeah.
you're on the cover of Madden, but the thing is that usually when you get the cover of Madden, it's because you played out of your mind. So it's going to be hard to replicate that. I'm thinking, are we just having a Madden curse with Dorsey? Did he just play out of his mind last year that it's going to be very hard to replicate that this year? That's what I'm assuming. But he's taken a big step back. I
It,
mean,
it was contract year.
that and I mean there was just the end of the game, the pass. Just
What was that?
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was just
The way he
that
ended that
never
game.
happened last year.
No, and that was kind of where I've already started been like formulating this take, watching him play, where it's like, man, he just doesn't seem to have that same threat that he did last year. And then towards the end of that last game in Chicago, I was like, what has happened to this dude? And I don't have an answer for it. It could be that maybe Quiones isn't on the wing, so there isn't such a distraction for his speed. And maybe it's that there is no Ache and you just don't have that point guard who could find Dorsey in the right place. Like with, to equate it to basketball, a lot of players that played with Magic Johnson, they said, the biggest difference with him and everybody else was a point guard might give me the ball. But the difference between everybody else and Magic is Magic got me the ball in the exact place that I liked it. And that's why a lot of people just were able to put up more points. To me, maybe Ache is that for Dorsey. He's just the guy that gets him the ball in the exact place that he likes it. So I don't want to say this is the panic button or to write off or anything like that. Again, even Dorsey at his level now, it's still good enough for the MLS, but we were just getting beyond MLS. A lot of people were kind of saying like, hey, could he go for the national team? That was even our ball in, ball out at one point. And I kind of said no, because this is who the Dorsey I thought we would get. But, again, yeah. And you can see producer Shay here has the clip of how he just kind of ran around and ended everything. He's just been a little bit off is the best way to put that.
Lynn had made that point when we interviewed him last year about Ache just making everybody better. He makes the defense better. He makes the attack better. That could be part of the issue, is that he's so comfortable with Ache. Ache knows where to find him. He knows where to be when Dorsey has the ball. That could be part of the problem. But at the same token, when somebody goes down, you'd expect for some of your better players to step up, and we just have not seen that. Yeah, he's definitely not the same guy like last year. I mean, I feel like at this point we're beating a dead horse. The funny thing was, I think they were tweeting you because I wasn't on the account. I think you were live tweeting. You were producer Shay, but somebody from another podcast, I guess it was a national team podcast, had mentioned like, is it safe to say Dorsey is taking a step back? And I remember reading that, thinking like, oh man, Dorsey's going to shut you up right now. And they eventually got the last laugh because that was just not his best by far.
So let's now move on to our new one. We've alluded to it a little bit here, but our crystal ball segment, where we kind of predict the future score of our upcoming match. So as we mentioned, we travel to Minnesota United this Saturday. It's a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. What's your prediction of score? How do you think this is going to go for us? You've alluded a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very sloppy game on both fronts. I think it's either going to be a 1-0 loss or a 0-0 draw. I think both teams are kind of a mess right now. I think our team is already looking forward to April 20th. It's a derby get match. Acha supposedly coming back. It's their first game back home in over 2 weeks. I think we're already going to be looking ahead. So my crystal ball is a 1-0 loss in Minnesota.
So I'm swimming in similar waters as you. Looking at United right now, there's just 1 point separating us. They currently sit fourth, but again, it's still early in the season. They're having a good start. Now, the biggest reason is they rarely lose at home, like ever. And they actually have a very underrated crowd support in Minnesota United. A lot of people, will point to Kansas City, St. Louis, but they kind of get lost in the shuffle and they do show up. Now, the biggest reason, they just kind of have too many scoring threats with Ludd up front, and their midfield is pretty much strong right now, at least healthier than us. I think it's going to be worse. I think it's a 2-0 loss here. I don't think we come away with a goal. I think if we come away with 1 point on the road here, that's a victory to me. I'm not expecting us to come out with a W. So if we do, I will be elated. But I think we drop this game, unfortunately. Not probably what fans want to hear, but in reality, it would be we still haven't overcome our road demons just yet. And to go into that environment, it would be a tall task.
So I'd love to get Minnesota's definition of AWOL when you're telling me someone's going AWOL. Like how bad is it really, right? Because that skews a lot of things for me. But
he's done it before, is what's crazy. It's like,
yeah,
this isn't
yeah.
new.
I mean, he's another difference maker, right? I mean, he's already he's getting a little bit older. I remember 2-3 years ago that Reynoso was scary. But yeah, like what's Minnesota's definition of AWOL? Is it like, this guy's a perfect citizen and today he didn't, I was going to say rewind his tapes when he returned into Blockbuster, but that's a little outdated. But I'd love to hear that because
do you
it's
think
like,
he's there, James Harden, for the Houston Rockets Day? Is that what you mean by he's doing AWOL?
yeah, exactly. So I think it ends in a loss. I just think the definition of AWOL depends on how bad that loss is going to be. My thing is like, I didn't want to get too far ahead, but we had mentioned Clark. Why did we not play Valdez in those
Anything.
CONCACAF matches? Or yeah, like I'm ready to start the Valdez project. I'm ready to start that experiment. When is it too early?
Dude, I'm right there with you, especially like if we were having clean sheets at the rate we were last year, I would be like, yeah, man, we got to keep riding this train. But Clark is 37 years old going into being 38. Like, we have to start looking at a future here, and we have a good one between the pipes. My thing is, you're exactly right. We play him now. We do one or two things. We know he's the goalie for the future, or we've upped his profile enough to sell him off, collect money, and buy a new goalkeeper in the future. You know what I mean? It's time that we start to implement some of these youth academy players. I mean, I know he's above that, but you mentioned Exxon. I would like to see us play those guys a little bit more than we do. I know we've alluded to that before, but to me, it just seems like we have the right talent to try this.
It's one thing if you have a 37-year-old Clark playing out of his mind, perfect matches. We're not getting that.
Yep.
We're getting decent
Rat tail.
matches. Yeah, rat tail. So I don't know. I'm ready to. To start that experiment. 3-0 is the latest Rayados and Inter Miami score.
Dude, speaking of, I know this is us kind of like peeling off a little bit, but their pitch is a disaster right now. 5 minutes in, the grounds crew had to run out there to fix divots. The midfield of that is just falling apart. Like that's a bad look for how great that stadium is.
That's what I was saying. I feel like the grounds team is like everyone's so infatuated with our view, they forget about the pitch. Like everyone's just looking at the mountains. We can
They're
get
like,
away
just
with
look
that.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they shouldn't have had this game at night then.
Before we move on to our next segment, well, I'm living out of a hotel right now, but I'm excited for next week's episode. I'm going to be rocking a New Jersey. Shout
Ooh.
out to the front office of Carolina Core FC, or as I like to call them, Dynathres,
Hey, yo.
because they shout out to Mr. John Wormley, gifted me with a Carolina Core FC jersey. They saw that we mentioned them before on the podcast and decided to show some love. We got a magnet, stickers, and they got me a jersey. I'm working on getting you one too, Brandon.
That's dope.
But yeah, Dynathres coming through.
Tell them we'll start building out a segment for them where we just give quick updates of just basically
I I
3 minutes
wish
of
that
them.
like honestly, a part of me selfishly wishes they were like a USL Championship team, because then like we could have our MLS next team, our MLS team, and then like another division US soccer. Unfortunately, they're in MLS next as well, so if both teams ever make it far enough, they could play each other. But shouts out to those guys. Those guys are doing a lot of things right. Community engagement. I mean, a lot of things we harp on this show, they're doing it right, and I'm really impressed. They have Hummel to make their jerseys. I loved what they did. There's little integrated foxes on the jerseys. I'll show it to you next week. I was hoping to wear it on this episode, but I had to come down to Corpus. But yeah, shouts out Carolina Core FC. Thank you guys.
Let's start to angle to get some of these people on and try to kind of give a more in-depth analysis of how they're actually doing this and why we need to do this, no matter how
Yeah,
small or
yeah.
big
No,
you
I
are.
can
So
definitely make that happen.
I think that's dope. Well, you're right, man. We should dive into our next segment here because I got a really good one today.
Oh man, I'm excited for this one. Alrighty, folks. So we are going to go with our Ballin' Around the Globe, where we take a story from somewhere in the world and bring it to you the way we ball. Listeners,
Ballin' around the globe.
Hey, yo.
I feel like I'm always Mr. Nice Guy and letting you go first. I'm going to go first today,
My
Brandon.
man.
So today we mentioned MLS Next. We mentioned USL even. Brandon, this past week, producer Shay's on his A game. This past week, in a rare USL match on broadcast television, CBS drew .23 and a 362,000 rating for Louisville versus Indy, two USL championship
Okay.
teams. That topped primetime MLS match on Fox. Now, keep in mind the MLS match went against the Final Four, so that did help skew the numbers. But Brandon, my question to you: is this a sign of is this a sign of lower division soccer growing in the United States, or is this a sign that March Madness is still king?
I think it's the latter. I also think it's a sign that if you put soccer in the right places, people go and they don't care if it's the top of the tier or not. Louisville and Indy, both places that have incredible stadiums. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the mock-up for what Indy is about to get over there, and it's amazing. It's top of the line. It rivals ours. Now,
Louisville too. Louisville has a great stadium
100%.
already.
And that's the thing. We've seen where also places like in Las Vegas, it grows out. Like it's amazing to see that if you put soccer in the right place, people will show up. I hope this story continues to grow, and I hope we see both of these cities in the MLS one day.
So the first sentence in that story, in a rare USL match on broadcast, I hope that doesn't become rare.
Yeah.
USL has a championship with ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, unless you have a Hulu account, isn't the easiest to maneuver. It's not very user friendly. You have to specifically look for the match you want to see if you want to find it. It's very hard to casually stumble upon a match. I hope we get more matches like this on broadcast TV. One.
Great.
Two, as producer Shay's showing clips of the match, it was a packed stadium. So it's not like you're just seeing Louisville or Indy fans watching this channel. Fans from all over were watching this because the Louisville and Indy fans were at the stadium. So I think in my opinion, this just shows that lower division soccer is growing. There is correct markets for USL to really thrive in. And there's, like you said, there's correct scenarios for a broadcast to thrive as well. And I think that was it. Yeah, it's tough to compete against Final Four. I'm kicking myself that I don't know what MLS match they were talking about, but I really think USL is thriving. I mean, look, producer Shay made a great point. Jack Harlow is the unofficial ambassador for Louisville
Yeah.
FC. So the fact that you have, I don't want to say A-listers, but you have some pretty notable names supporting their local clubs, that's only going to rise the tide. So I just got really excited when I saw this. I had another like funnier story I wanted to share, but I feel like this is pretty monumental, man. This is a pretty big deal. I know this is the first time that that CBS did a USL match on broadcast, and I hope it's not the last, and I hope we see more of it. And I hope lower division soccer just grows in the U.S. because that's going to be the difference maker from this sport taking that next step.
This is how you kind of wrapping it up. Final thing here. This is how you grow the sport into having relegation and so forth. When you can start to see that both leagues have enough crowd support to show up, whether you're the top tier football or not. If you have that, then you can have promotion and relegation, because in that case, most people, the TV money is great, but if you have attendance money, your team will still live. And that is one where that's a big concern. So, I mean, if it wasn't for our TV money, who knows where the Dynamo might be. So, like, this is something where I'm with you. If we want that to be our route, if we want the sport to continue to grow in America, we need more stories like this, and we just need more publicity for the sport. And streaming is so easy. There's really not a reason for it not to be more readily available.
And I love like more money going into it too. I love the owners of Louisville and Indy that are like, okay, we're going to put all of our funds into this. We don't have to be in the top league. That's fine. We're going to make this feel as professional and as top of the league as it can get. Louisville, that thing rivals MLS stadiums, and I love,
100%.
and like you said, the renderings for Indy. So on top of that, like ownerships that take the sport seriously, that's going to be the difference maker.
I agree. It will pay off in the long run here. All right, buddy. For mine here, we are going to travel first to Romania. And Jamal, I always ask you a question. What's a good way to stop fans from invading the pitch?
Security.
Yes. And boy, do I have security at the highest form. So as always, I'm going to do some reading. So there are a few ways to stop pitch invasions: electric fences, a heavy police presence, or making your team so bad that no fans turn up to run on the field in the first place. But the Romanian 4th Division is rough and ready place. Back in 2003, Sto Nicol Balhisiu had been threatened with expulsion from the league after a series of pitch invasions and clashes. Sto's chairman, Alexandra Kringas, perhaps showing why the team he was running were in the 4th Division rather than the 1st, decided the best way to stop the hooligans was by building a crocodile-infested moat around the pitch. Because if you can't build a crocodile-infested moat around the pitch, what's the point of being in charge of a football club, eh? This is not a joke, insisted Kringas. We can get crocodiles easy enough and feed them on meat from the local abattoir. The ditch is planned to be wide enough so that no one can manage to jump over it. Anyone who attempted to do so would have to deal with the crocs. I think that the problem with fans running on the pitch will be solved once and for all. This wasn't some slad dash plan, though. Kringas had a good long think about health and safety too. He planned to build the moat far enough from the pitch that the players wouldn't accidentally tumble into their doom. He even thought of the crocs too. Romanian winters can be harsh, so the water could be heated by electric pipes. You may not be surprised to discover that local authorities rejected the scheme. So Jamal, yeah, security can do it, but imagine a crocodile-infested moat around your players.
That is nuts. That's like, I
What
always
an
tell myself
idiot.
if I ever owned a football team, like the things I would do. That's why I don't own a football team, because ideas like that, a part of me feels like I would think of something as ridiculous as that. There was like a year ago that, how do I say this without getting too political? Some people on one side wanted to throw Crocs in the Rio Grande River to stop people from swimming across. And it's funny because when you mentioned security, that's where my head went, and sure enough. So
To
I don't know what it is
Crocs.
with this infatuation with like crocodiles and stopping people from going in from one place to another. But you really want to stop people? Ducks. That's where you need to go. Ducks are vicious. They bite. Not going to kill you, but it's not very pleasant to deal with.
Uh, Unless they're playing Iceland in round one, then the Ducks, they don't fly together. And that's the only problem there. That's a Mighty Ducks reference there for you.
Yeah.
The only thing for me is there it is. I was waiting for it, producer Shay. I was setting you up. The only thing is, I love how people just assume like crocodiles are just these like bloodthirsty animals that just want nothing but human flesh. Like, yeah, if you run across their habitat, they might like strike, but for the most part, not really. So what a horrible idea. I'm with you. If I owned a team, I would have stupid things like this. Anytime we in our pitch meetings, like they talk about like having ballpark experience, I always have ridiculous stuff like this lined up, ready to go. It makes it just hilarious. Hopefully one day I do own a team. Well, man, time to move on to our last and favorites here. I've got some good ones for us.
Let's hear it. Alrighty. So we are going to move on to that little brain fart there. We're going to move on to our ball in or ball out, where Brandon throws up topics and we say if we're for them, ball in, or we're against them, ball out. Shay's getting better with the timing. All right.
I know, right? He's crushing it now. All right, producer Shay, first one here.
Ball in or ball out.
So we mentioned March Madness. Caitlin Clark should be a modern day Bo Jackson by playing professional women's basketball and soccer. Ball in, ball out for Caitlin Clark playing two sports professionally.
Um, I hate to say it, I didn't fall into the Caitlin Clark hype. I guess I
Oh,
was just after U of H lost, I was done with college basketball. So I'm honestly indifferent. I'd like to see her. I'd rather see her in the Big Three competition with Ice Cube than soccer, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm ball in on Caitlin Clark playing in the Big Three. I'm I bet you anything WNBA is going to let her do that. So I don't think that's too far fetched. But ball in on her on the Big Three.
so
Ball.
did you
Go ahead.
hear what the Big Three offered her?
5 million.
Yeah, 5 million to play, and
Yeah.
I think it's something like 12 games or whatever like that. So like it would be very feasible for her to do, but I don't know. I think that would be hilarious. I would like to watch her in that. She's got the talent. I completely fell in with not only the Caitlin Clark hype, but pretty much all women's March Madness. It was way better than the men's. I'm not just saying that because that's like the hot take to do. It was just way better than the men's. Like it was, I was betting on it, like the works, right? So I was putting literally where my money, where my mouth is. But in this case, I'm ball in for it. She is going to be a massive star here in the WNBA. I legitimately believe eyeballs will start to transfer to that. So in this case, I would love to see her bring that to the women's soccer division here because she was a soccer star growing up. She just chose basketball, which seemed to pan out for her. I think this would be a brilliant move. We haven't seen a real two-star athlete in quite some time. I mean, I'm sure there is one that I'm not thinking of, like, but in terms of one that was on a premier stage, has to be Dion, right? Like Primetime is the last one I can really think of that did it. I know Terrell Owens and like Tony Gonzalez played in like some pickup games here and there and stuff like that, but not at this elite level. So I think she should do it. I think it would market her brand to a whole new level. And on top of that, imagine if she ended up making the women's national team for soccer, going to a World Cup. Like it would just be epic, man. So ballin', I'm here for the whole just exploitation of Caitlin Clark.
Well, I feel like another reason I didn't fall into the hype too much was last year's ending or Caitlin Clark's ending. I was totally in last year, and then she lost to LSU. So
But
yeah,
then
I
she got
mean,
revenge.
yeah. No, I mean, I'm not against it. I would just, if I had to choose between that or soccer, I'd much rather see what she can do in the Big Three, because I feel like that would be fun to watch.
I'm here with you on that one. All right, producer Shay, next one. Maybe.
Ball in around.
Nope.
Ball in or ball out.
Pulisic would have a bigger impact on the MLS than Neymar if he came over right now. If either one of them came over, Pulisic would have a bigger impact on the MLS than Neymar.
Oh man, that one is that's a real thinker. I'm gonna have to say ball out.
Mm.
Ball out because I feel like Neymar has two generations of fans. I feel like Pulisic is more of the younger generation. Neymar is that generation that saw Ronaldinho phasing out, and Neymar was a new face. So, and he's Brazilian. So, like my mom, for example, if I told my mom the best American player is going to come and play for the U.S., she'd be like, okay, cool. If I told my mom the best Brazilian player at one point is coming to play in the U.S., he's young still, blah, 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 she would be interested. She would raise an eyebrow. So I think for the casual viewer, Neymar's the biggest hit, and that's who we need. Is we need eyes from the casuals because diehards are going to watch no matter what. I'm more interested in getting the casuals money and their eyes, and I think Neymar does that.
I agree. As much as I wanted to say that I think Christian is going to come over, be Captain America here, and take whoever to the rise, he's, in all honesty, he's just too boring. To me, Neymar fits the style of somebody that you can flash across. You know, he's going to make news, where Pulisic is just going to make goals, and I know that's what you want, but he's too boring to be a star here for what the MLS needs. So I think Neymar would help that.
So I'm glad you said that because now I'm going to give you a question, not necessarily ball in or ball out, but as we've seen with the likes of James Harden, Kanye West, the girl you date can elevate your status. Who does Pulisic have to date to be a household name in the U.S.?
It's a great one, right? So, like, who would the next dating thing be? I think you have to pick like an American sweetheart, like him, and like what's Sydney Sweeney or whatever, because since she's all over.
That was my vote. I was hoping you'd go somewhere else. I think if he went with Sydney Sweeney, game over.
I
She's
agree.
like the hottest thing on Twitter right now.
Yep.
People know her from her shows. She's had some pretty big cast, like Euphoria, right? Euphoria, when it's on, everyone's glued in. I think if you get Pulisic to date Sydney Sweeney, comes back home to the U.S., then you have your star. So I don't know. Is he single? Is he dating anybody?
I don't care, even if he's not, right? No one's gonna really care. He's famous. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, producer Shay, last one.
Ball in or ball out?
This one was heated on Twitter. Sergio Ramos wants to come to the MLS. What if he chooses the Dynamo?
Um, Before I answer that, producer Shay's vote was Taylor Swift, but I don't
Oh, that's
think
a good
he's
one.
taken.
Now,
Yeah, Kelsey's got that on lock. Sergio Ramos. So Sergio Ramos was at one point my man crush, so I am all for it. If anything, just for the looks and just for the nostalgia. So give me some Ramos. The more big names we can get in a Houston jersey, as we mentioned last week's episode, Houston is a destination. Bring him here. So I am ball in on Sergio Ramos becoming a Houstonian.
absolutely ball out. I think this guy is too old, even for the MLS. I think he's Escobar, just with a higher price tag in terms of being hot headed. Ramos for me would have been great 7 seasons ago, but now, no, I don't want him there. He is not the type of DP player that we need. I think it would be great in terms of PR. Yeah, we would win that. We could plaster him all over the place and we'll sell tickets, but we won't win with that kind of signing. I hope we stay away from players like him, and especially in the defensive side. I think we've proven that we can develop defensive players out of nowhere, and I hope we continue to spend money on people that can put the ball in the net. I think that's something I'm learning with the MLS, that if you have a prime striker, you're just going to be able to survive a lot more.
I mean, if for anything else, another reason I want Ramos in Houston is for me to get my hands on him because I'm still not over what he did to
Dude,
Salah in the Champions League. So if I see him on a stoplight, I'm rear-ending him. I'll take the high premium of my insurance. It'll be
1000%.
totally worth it for what he did to our Egyptian king.
Dude, in all honesty, that's probably why I hate him so much, because of like how he is a dirty player and with Liverpool. But I am serious too on the fact that he's just not what we need. So don't spend that money on things that we don't need. That's how you fall into a problem. We've been avoiding problems. Let's continue to kind of push forward here with that. I think it would be great if he came to the MLS, but he's going to go to one of the coasts, either New York or he's going to go to LA. Like, I would be shocked if he ended up in Miami. I don't think they can do that one.
Have they talked about, or what's the latest with Vegas getting a team?
I don't know. They're always hit or miss. I feel like Vegas is always the threat when any team in any sport wants to like move or get more money. They're like, we're going to Vegas.
You know
And
what's going
so,
to happen is that Oakland is going to go MLS, and then they're going to move them to Vegas. So I bring that up because I could totally see Sergio in San Diego or Vegas if he's not going to go to the LAs or the New Yorks or
I
Miami.
I think that's a great call. If he decides to go with the expansion San Diego team, I like that move then. Then I am a little bit more ball in on him coming to the MLS, but completely this is more focused on just like Dynamo. I was amazed to see Twitter kind of really like for it. I get that it's a big name, but in reality, I just don't think that's the headache we need.
I think for Dynamo fans, like if you talk to Gabriel Brenner, they're going to be like, "No, we bought Cubo Torres and we bought the other Mexicans." I don't want to call him a star, but when they spent big money in the past, it was for potential stars. We never spent money on an established name like a Hector Herrera. And I feel like it's gone so well with Herrera that people are like, yes, I want more stars. Stars bring wins. Stars bring, and like it doesn't always end like that. Look at Gerard. As much as I wanted Gerard to work in the U.S., it didn't work. And there's other
Yeah.
cases where it doesn't necessarily always work. Cuauhtemoc Blanco didn't necessarily work. He wasn't the same player with Chicago. So stars don't always bring wins. I just think we got really lucky with Herrera. So yeah, I mean, Griezmann, I'm all for.
Yeah.
Ramos, just so that I can rear end him. But other than that, yeah, we don't really need him.
I almost think the DP slots should just be primarily for attackers, and then you use like your U22s and GAM for defenders and mid. Like, in all honesty, I think that's how, if you structure a team that way, you're going to have more success. And I
Yeah,
don't.
I'm just like trying to think of. It was Leon, I think, the Mexican,
I wouldn't be able to
player
tell you
we
off the
got.
top of my head now.
Yeah. Anyway, uh, was that it for our ball in ball out this week?
That's it, man. I'm amazed at how many people jumped out at that. But now it's on to United, and then we bring on the rivals there from Austin. Bring on the broccoli.
And we try to set up Pulisic with Sidney Sweeney.
Damn right we are. I think that's a good one. It's amazing that both of us were going there. But I mean, I think that's even better than even Taylor Swift, because then it would just seem like Taylor Swift is just an
Like
athlete
that
jumper.
reputation just like precedes her, right? And like
Yep.
I don't know if it was. I thought it was just me. My timeline. Sidney
No.
Sweeney has been like plastered on my Twitter. It's insane.
Same. We have same algorithms.
Well, alrighty, Brandon. This is going to end up turning into like a Perez Hilton or an extra piece. But that's it for this week's episode. Also, folks, let us know how y'all feel about the spaces. I kind of teased it last week, and then I think we only got like 2 replies. But if that's something you want to continue doing or start doing, let us know.
Yep.
But for this week's episode, I am Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is the way we ball.